Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and we'll bring the Diversion Authority Public Outreach Committee meeting to order. And first item would be the roll call and the approval of agenda. Dawn, could we have a roll call?
Mayor Dardis. Mr. Van Amberg. Mr. Wayland. Mr. Gust.
Here.
Ms. Mastel.
Here.
Mr. Pollock. Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
Ms. Carlson.
Here.
Mr. Strand. We are missing one person for a quorum.
All right, well, hopefully that one person will join. We just won't be able to make any decisions as far as votes. So we'll go on to item 2. Rocky, would you do some introductions for us?
Yeah, I don't know the best way to do this on a virtual meeting, but I'm going to pop out of the PowerPoint here because otherwise I can't see everybody, and introductions are maybe an important time to do that. I think, this is a virtual committee, but we do have a new staff member with the Diversion Authority. I don't know, Joel, if you're on, if you want to introduce her, if you'd like me to, and then maybe Jennifer could introduce herself for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, Rocky. Thank you. So I guess I'm happy to introduce Miss Jennifer Darling to the Public Outreach Committee. Jennifer accepted the position of Communications Director for the Diversion Authority, and she started on November 2nd. Obviously, a lot to get up to speed on, and she's been really hitting the ground running, and already. She's been providing just valuable insight into our communications, both internal and external, as far as the Diversion Authority is concerned. Her role is going to be primarily strategy and ensuring implementation and accountability for communications, internal and external, as I mentioned before. And Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you if you want to do an introduction and tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, hello, everyone. So I'm Jennifer Darling, and I'm originally from Atlanta, although my grandfather was from Minot here in North Dakota. So I'm really excited to be here. I have had quite a bit of experience over the years in some global locations, spending the past 5 years in Europe, but really excited to be part of this team, this project, and here in Fargo. So I'm looking forward to learning more through this process and getting to know each of you, and hopefully have the opportunity to meet you in person sometime soon. So excited to learn more.
And I'll just note for the committee, Rocky, you've done an amazing job with the Public Outreach Committee and leading these meetings. We do intend to have Rocky continue to do that for maybe a few more months here as Jennifer transitions into her role and she gets up to speed and soaks in the immense amount of information necessary for her position, but eventually we'll transition Jennifer into leading these meetings in the near future. So,
Mr. Chair,
Hey,
I see that. I know you're on the phone. I see that Councilwoman Shelley Carlson has her hand up. Just to make note of that, and I don't know if she has a comment or just click the button, but.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that Mayor Judd will likely be joining us very soon. We just ended a interview session in Moorhead a little bit after 1 o'clock, and I know that he was still in city chambers. So I'm anticipating that he just is en route his home office and will be joining us soon, so we would have a quorum.
And I'll just make,
thank you for that.
I'll just make note, since the chair is calling in and I'm going to be sharing the presentation, so I can't see any raised hands. If everybody could just make note of that, so you maybe just have to speak up, or if one of the other members notices, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good note, Rocky. So Don, maybe you could monitor the attendees and notify the chair if somebody has their hand raised.
Okay, this is the chair, Roger. Thank you. We'll go on to meeting minutes, and just before we do that, Jennifer, welcome. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person someday, and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Okay, item 3 is minutes from the meeting on October 21st.
Jake
Do we have
will
a
move
motion
that
to-
we accept the meetings, minutes.
Okay.
Steve,
motion,
second.
is there a second? Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 4 is the outreach activity review. Settlement approval media.
Yeah, just, this is a pretty standard item, I guess. The settlement agreement that was reached took place after last meeting, and that's been really the driver of media over the last month. And if you're not up to speed, I guess I'd be surprised, but there are a lot of details on the website of the settlement. I know Commissioner Strand and Joel were very intimate into that deal, and so I don't know if there's anything to update the committee on, but I think one of the good things that was in the settlement was sort of a dissolving of some of the Richland and Wilkin Powers efforts to kind of talk about the project. I know the JPA editorial team was disbanded as that, and there's sort of a removing of assistance to some of the other entities in the media that have been against the project in the past. So it should really help clear up the project to talk about implementation and construction, and hopefully reduce the amount of misinformation that's been out there in the past that we've spent an awful lot of time and effort to try to combat. And so I think we're looking forward to what that means for the future for outreach and for this committee, and for the efforts, and how that changes into really talking more about the project and less about selling the project or designing the project, but about getting the project done.
Yeah, and this is Roger again. I appreciate the message that was brought out by the Diversion Authority, and also by the Upstream Joint Powers Group. I think it was very positive for both, and that's really what I was hoping for. And I have not heard any negative on that settlement. Not at all. I think it was definitely the direction to go. So thank you, Executive Director Paulsen, for the way you handled that. I think it was very well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just make a few brief notes. We have found agreement with the Upstream on pretty much every issue that's been discussed since the inception of this project that has been of concern with folks in the upstream mitigation area. And so with that, we have agreed and obligated ourselves to a number of additional programs that we'll be implementing in the very near future. And my wish is to move those programs along as fast as possible. And it's going to require an immense amount of outreach to affected individuals and entities that fall within the provisions of the programs as beneficiaries. And so we're really struggling with that right now internally, and getting processes and policies into place, so that we can begin to do the outreach necessary to really do the kitchen table meetings one-on-one with affected landowners, explain the programs that are implemented to benefit and offset the negative impacts of the project. And so I think that's just something I'd like this committee to realize, is that we've really turned a corner here, and our focus now is to engage those individuals and start to try to bring clarity to folks that have otherwise had really ambiguity in their lives up to this point. We now can come to them with refined programs and explain exactly what those are going to be. And so that is really going to be the Diversion Authority's emphasis over the next 3 months, is trying to engage as many individuals as possible. Obviously, COVID-19 presents some challenges in having those kitchen table one-on-one meetings. And so we are going to be struggling with that, as it kind of handicaps our ability to meet in person with folks. But we're certainly going to make every effort to hit the ground running as quick as possible, as far as that's concerned. So just maybe for information, certainly open to any comments or questions that anyone has on the committee concerning the settlement. And I'll open it up for any questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? Now's a good time to get the answer. Well, Joel, I think you've done a good job, evidently. No questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet. Okay, we'll go on to property owner responses to the Clomer.
As you know, over the last couple of months, we've talked a lot about the Clomer and what that meant for the outreach program and for the land acquisition program. Letters, as Joel said, we can really focus on the next steps in the project and really getting down and talking to property owners and answering the questions that they care about most. And I think we've seen a lot of success. So we sent out letters to all the impacted property owners and all the community-wide property owners within those townships, even if they're not impacted, to kind of let them know where they can get information. The timing of these two items were really helpful to each other, because obviously a lot of the issues that land acquisition had was, is this project going to go forward? What about litigation? What about permits? Those things are cleared up now, and now we can focus, as Joel said, on the programs that really are meant to mitigate the impacts of those property owners. And just want to let you know that we are fielding responses from the property owners. We got good response. A lot of those responses we tried to direct to their individual land agents who are getting to work. Appraisals are starting on upstream structures that should help move things along that way. There's been a lot of calls back to AE2S from the either property owners impacted or non-impacted that just have additional questions about the project. And as you'll see in our web traffic activities later, one of the things we pointed them to was the lands, the URL fmdiversion.gov/lands. And we saw a big uptick in that. And so we're hoping people, the goal is if they can go there and find the answers themselves, that's probably preferable to everybody involved. And so we're hoping that's the case, because that's got a huge uptick, and only a few phone calls follow up on it. So we're positive about that, and hopefully the land agents can continue to have that personal connection with folks. I don't know if anybody's heard anything else. Yeah.
On the Clomer. Go ahead.
Next item, the communications plan. We're probably a little behind schedule that we originally showed, and I think that's okay. With Jennifer on board is one of the things we've been waiting for. We had a final draft, or a draft that we brought to this committee, and it was sort of a near final draft. We really wanted to get the input and sort of visionary experience from the director of communications. And we've been meeting with Jennifer to go over the plan and incorporate some of her ideas. Obviously there's a lot to take in on this project, and so that's a kind of a lengthy onboarding process in itself. But we're hoping to finalize the report internally this month and then bring it back with some changes from the version you saw a couple months ago now, to ask for a recommendation. We're hoping in December. Good ideas can wait too, I guess, if we need some more time to incorporate them. But we're hoping December we can bring that back for the recommendation from you and to the board for approval. We'll work with Jennifer on the timing of that. Wanted to keep you updated.
Okay, thanks, Rocky. How about the analytics?
Here's the analytics. I think the biggest news we had was obviously the settlement agreement. There was a lot of talking about that across all the platforms. I think that was really helpful. I think we all need positive news in 2020, so that's good. But we're also going into a legislative session, to federal funding cycles. All those things that really help make our elected officials' jobs easier, as well as they go out to seek funding. To have the settlement agreement. So I think all that's good. We saw an uptick on the website from the Clomar mailings, which was as intended. And then just a couple interesting things that we talk about here. Our YouTube videos continue to be popular. Some of them continue to rattle around the web somewhere. For instance, one of the most popular videos we have is still General Semonite talking about the project, and that was well over a year ago now that he shot that. And so some of those things do have a longer lifespan, and so that's good to see, and that's why we do video. But we're excited about the slow uptick and everything, and it means we're getting news out to people across a lot of different platforms.
Okay, and then construction video updates.
Yeah. Give me a second here. I'm going to switch, and we'll watch. I think they're two-minute videos. And I think, as we've said every month for the last 2 months, we're not sure when the last time we're going to be able to shoot these this year, but fortunately the weather is holding out. And I think hopefully we all agree that's a good thing. I know Jennifer's coming from the south and is really hoping for some snow, but we're going to just ignore her wishes for as long as possible. Give me 1 second.
I do love the colder weather.
So these were shot in less than a week ago, and there's still a lot of activity. There's still going to be another big concrete pour on the wild rice structure yet this year. So if you haven't been down there, I encourage you to see it in person. But if you haven't seen it in person, I will get it up here. For some reason, it's not popping up on my little share screen, so I apologize for that. I can't figure out why.
Rocky, do you want me to try to share them?
That would be great. I'm not sure what's going on. Apologize, everybody. So again, there were links sent out that have sound attached to them. These would not have sound over virtual meeting. Also, because we're the public outreach committee, the links are smooth video with sound and sort of well produced. if you're interested in Able, you can click those links and then share them on your social media of preference. It's always good to use these and leverage them as much as possible to get this out to folks. I think, seeing this real world development is really helpful. It's what we've been waiting for, is to have these visuals. And so these are pretty valuable. A couple of the other benefits we found of having this drone footage is, for many years, the media has been asking for updated visuals. They have shown that rendering of the inlet structure for 5-6 years, and it got pretty stale. And so they routinely use our updated drone footage as sort of their B-roll as they're talking about the project. Also, Joel is giving a presentation to the North Dakota Water Conference virtually this year, and it's being pre-recorded, and so we can use some of those videos to show sort of live action shots while he's talking instead of PowerPoint slides in a pre-recorded video. So those are helpful. I think the more we can get them out to folks. Any questions about the videos?
Okay, hearing none, Rocky. Thank you for that. And I think that's a great tool, like for Joel to use out in Bismarck for sure, so they can see actually something is happening. And yeah, I think it's a great tool. So we'll go on to legislative update, election recap.
Yeah, so just obviously another huge action that happened between last meeting and this meeting was elections, which always bring in a few different community leaders into the area that we work with, Joel and others, to get up to speed on the project, understand if we have any issues before them or funding requests before them. So I just wanted to run through those so you sort of knew who the new players were and what we're doing to work on that. Joel is meeting with legislative leadership, and also we're working on setting up a meeting on the Cass County side with the Cass County Legislative Caucus. There's 2 new members of the Cass County Legislative Caucus. You can see on this screen, there's a full sheet of this that was emailed out to the committee, but we have 1 new senator in District 22 that's replacing Gary Lee, the new Weber. And then the only other change was in District 27, where Thomas Beadle won a statewide office, and so they will be appointing a new legislator there. So out of quite a lot of incumbents reclaimed their spots. There was no party changeover in any of the races, just 2 moving on to different things. And then on the Minnesota side, which I don't have an image for, Representative Ben Lean is retiring from that service, and Heather Keeler is the new representative-elect on the state side, who we've had a couple meetings with, and we'll continue to work closely with them. On the federal side, we obviously have a new congresswoman from the Minnesota, and we're working to set up a briefing with her and her staff. And so as we get toward legislative sessions at the beginning of next year, we'll try to get in a lot of meetings between now and then and make sure that everybody understands what we're asking of each legislative body, and if they have any support that's needed to help them be our champions.
Yeah, I had an opportunity, this is Roger, I had an opportunity to talk to Mark Weber after he was elected, and he really wants to get involved in the water issues. So I think to get him up to speed would be great. I think he comes from a farm background. So as far as water issues and what's going on, you know, with the diversion and the impacts to the farming, and I think he could be an asset really for all the water activities that we support. So. Any questions on the legislative update? Anybody got any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to committee input on outreach activity plan for upcoming months.
You know, this is a change in our agenda where we're trying to sort of get some feedback on what, you know, I guess Jennifer and our team here should be focusing on, if there's things out there that you want to see and be more involved with. These are some of the upcoming sort of key activities in the next few months. We have the legislative session. There's a number of new elected officials locally on the Minnesota side, Moorhead within Clay County, which will create some new committee member spots that we'll talk about in a little bit here. But you know, we'll work with Joel and then each individual entity to try to make sure that they have the resources they need and the background they need, as we've done in the past. The Red River Basin Commission is also holding a virtual conference that we need to work on, and I mentioned the North Dakota Water Conference. The only other thing is the holiday lights. I think I have a slide for that here just to show you. This was kind of based on a goal a couple of years ago of trying to be more out in the community and not the sort of faceless entity. So one of the things that we did last year for the first time was enter sort of the Christmas lights festival at Lindenwood Park that starts on Thanksgiving and runs through the end of the year. You can see our little Christmas themed, holiday themed thing there. It looks better in the dark when it's all lit up, but it's been kind of fun to just put that up and support the community and get some information out there about the project. So check that out if you're in the area. But are there other key activities coming up that you all know of or you need us to be at or be involved with?
Rocky, this is Katie with the Chamber. I know we've talked to you about a couple events and stuff that we're going to do, but I was just kind of wondering overall and thinking about events and, you know, what we're doing for outreach in the next couple weeks, months, that kind of thing. What's the main focus or message that we're trying to get out right now to the public overall? I know with the settlement agreement, with legislative session coming up, I mean, what is the basic message that we want to get out right now?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, and apologize I didn't update this after we had talked. We are working with the chamber for Joel to help be a part of Eggs and Issues at their upcoming meeting in probably February, which will be perfect timing right in the middle of the legislative session. But you're right, I think we definitely have a new message for this project. With the settlement agreement, we expect to resolve all the litigation matters by the end of the year or shortly after that, depending on holiday impacts the litigation timelines, but we expect that to all resolve shortly, which means we're just focused on construction moving forward, P3 moving forward. It's really, this project's about getting it built, getting it done, getting the community protected. We shouldn't have the holdups that we had in the past, sort of the excuses for not getting things done on time or delays. This is all on us now to really get this done. I think we also have the ability to focus on finalizing the programs that we have talked about for years with the upstream, and we always say, well, we're working on that. We'll get back to you. We're working on that. Well, now we're going to get them done. There's nothing holding us back anymore. And so this project's moving forward, which means funding is critical as we go to the legislative bodies. This is not a guessing game anymore. We will have P3 bids shortly in the spring that we'll have a contract for and be committed for. And so the money is not a guess anymore. It's not this is what we think we'll need. This is what we'll actually need. And so I think that message going into the legislative bodies is really, really critical as well. And I think with the chamber's support in the past, and their members have really wanted that certainty. And I think we finally have that certainty now. And I don't know, Joel, if there's a additional message or a change of that you'd like to talk about, I think it'd be a good time.
This is Jake. I would suggest that we perhaps start to think about how we're going to prepare the public for the P3 program. That part of the project is the first in the nation, so everybody's going to be watching it from all over the country. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't understand how that's going to work.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. I think you're exactly right. I mean, that's going to be our next big achievement, is closing the P3 deal and starting construction. And I agree with you. I don't think many people understand the benefits that the P3 brings to a contracting arrangement such as this. And one, because this is the first project of its kind in the nation that utilizes a split delivery P3 contracting mechanism. And two, we just don't see a lot of public-private partnerships in the upper Midwest, just because project sizes traditionally are not as big as what we're dealing with on the diversion project. And it takes projects of significant magnitude to make public-private partnerships work. And so I've already talked to Jennifer about this and how can we boil down the high points of the benefits of a P3 into a message that people can easily understand and grasp. And a lot of that hinges around innovation, the cost effectiveness, the risk transfer that occurs, and all of those combine to provide significant public benefit to the public agencies and entities that are responsible for implementing the project. So we'll take those words, Jake, and your comments to heart, and it certainly is going to be part of our messaging. Rocky, I think you're spot on. I think the message of finding consensus here, moving forward with the project, and really focusing primarily on an implementation phase at this point and transitioning into that implementation phase. We can put a lot of these things that have kind of held us back for a long time behind us, and we've gotten a solution. We're implementing those solutions, and we're moving forward with construction. And I think everyone can celebrate that a little bit, because it's been a long time of anticipating the moment that we're in right now. And so it's certainly something to celebrate. But in turn, we have a lot of hard work to do in front of us. In some aspects, we're just getting started. And I know that might sound a little crazy, but I think it is the reality of the situation. We don't have a lot of construction with the diversion channel and the southern embankment underway, with the exception of the control structures that are being built right now. And so when you look at the amount of construction activity that needs to occur between now and the end of construction, it's an immense amount. And there'll be a lot of coordination, a lot of outreach necessary to keep people apprised of what's going on, and really feeding information to folks that that need to hear it. So I think that's kind of probably the key takeaways in my mind is, one, the benefits of the public-private partnership and really getting that message out there as far as what those significant benefits are to our community. And then two, the transition and implementation of the project, and how we go about that and providing regular and timely updates to folks that are interested or impacted by construction. The other thing I think that has really been coming across, my radar screen more and more is people are seeing that we're moving forward and they're wondering what the future is going to look like. One, from a jobs perspective, where are all these people going to come from that are going to be working on this project? Where are they going to live? How is that going to impact the housing market and different industries here locally? When we start talking about 7,000 jobs created by the construction of this project, that's huge for our local community here. And how do we deal with a potential influx of folks necessary for the construction? And so I have talked to folks at the chamber a little bit about this, also members of the Business Leaders Task Force, and other folks that are prominent in different industries related to construction, engineering, and housing in particular. But I think it really goes across a lot of different industries and a lot of different impacts here. So certainly something to keep on our minds as well. So a lot of good work to be done in the upcoming future here.
This is Jake again. Yeah, Joel, I really appreciate your comments. And if Churchill was here, he would say it's the end of the beginning.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Okay, thanks, Jake, for the question, and thanks, Joel, for the answer. Just a comment about, we've crossed a big valley here by signing this agreement, but as Joel said, there's a lot of things to do yet, and not just from the construction side, but also from the buyout side, from purchasing land rights, and our land agents are doing a pretty good job relaying the message and trying to make landowners that need to sell us their land, trying to make them comfortable, trying to explain the process, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. I don't know if there's anything that we want to do from the outreach side that would help that process. Joel, I don't know if you have any ideas in that. Is it something that we could do from the outreach committee or suggestions that we could pass along? But the land agents seem to be doing a pretty good job of giving the people their rights and understanding, what we're asking for and what their options are.
Yeah, I would agree, Roger, and yes, I would have to give a special thanks to our land agents, and they're doing and involved in some of the most difficult aspects of this project in dealing with the purchase of folks that need to leave their homes and farms and their lands. So we're certainly cognizant of that. I think one thing that'll help in those discussions, Roger, is for a long time, those land agents haven't been able to provide answers to a lot of the landowners' questions because the questions were really related to items that were settled in the settlement agreement, and there wasn't any clarity prior to having that settlement agreement in place. So now there is. However, with what we've agreed to in that settlement agreement, we need to work on policies and procedures of how we're implementing those. And I mentioned earlier, that's going to be our focus, is getting those in place. Once those are in place, we'll be working with those land agents to make sure that they understand the policies and procedures and can work with the individual landowners that are being impacted to provide that certainty. And so I do think that's going to help immensely in the discussions as we move forward with property acquisition, flowage easements, and other potential impacts to people and land. So, I think it's something that we'll begin to monitor as we implement those policies and procedures. I do think some of those policies will be filtered through the committees and ultimately the board. And hopefully we get some of those kicked off at the next month's meeting. And certainly by January, to get those in place as quick as possible and to get folks out there talking with people.
And then just one more comment on the schedule and where we're going. I think we probably talked about this before, but I think it's important to keep the public keep their knowledge of the process and how fast it's going to happen and when certain things are going to happen. And I know all that information is available on the website, but that would be one thing to make sure that we keep that so that people have questions, they can go there and I know there's a lot of information on the website, but as we go into full-time construction and the P3, there's going to be a lot of questions about how fast and when's it going to get to my area, and those things are important to the people that are out there, and it's just I know we're all aware of it, but let's keep it out front. Okay, let's any other questions or input for December? I think Rocky and Jennifer are probably looking for some ideas from the committee. Anything that you'd like a direction for us to go? Suggestion? I guess I am wondering about the Minnesota side, and is there enough information, do you feel, for the people, the landowners on the Minnesota side, and how this is all coming together? Any comments there?
The Minnesota landowners got the same, Colmar information that the North Dakota landowners did. I do think there was probably some uncertainty at the time because the Minnesota permit and those permit conditions were not final. With the resolution, with the settlement and the resolution of the litigation, that permit and those conditions will become more final. And I expect we'll probably have to do, potentially another round of outreach, more specifically on the programs mentioned in the permit conditions. But there's potential for change there too, I guess, until that process is fully done. But that will help give us a lot more confidence on our side to be able to give better answers as well. And so there probably is more that needs to be done just because of the uncertainty that was still outstanding in that. But we tried to give them the same information that North Dakota had, just the policies and litigation were a little further along on the North Dakota side.
Okay, any other comments or input?
Roger, this is Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
I'm just thinking too, on the Minnesota side, I'm looking forward to probably a little bit better of a discussion and working relationship with the Buffalo Red River Watershed District and the landowners out there. I think we'll probably see some changes there in messaging that will be beneficial.
Maybe one anecdotal thing on that is I know Joel was working with Holy Cross Township, which is the southern township in Clay County. That was a group that we had previously tried to meet with multiple times and had been unsuccessful in doing that. And since settlement agreement was underway, there's a lot more discussions with multiple entities in that area. And so just as Commissioner Campbell said, that alone should help, get both questions asked to us and answered back, that maybe that communication wasn't there previously. So that should be a big help, I think.
Yeah, and Commissioner Campbell, part of the settlement agreement was the implementation of the completion of the ring levee around Georgetown, and also a incorporation of a new ring levee around Wolverton. Both of those projects will be implemented by Buffalo Red. So we'll be working close. We'll have to be working closely with Buffalo Red to work with them to implement projects. There's also some work in Comstock, the county road through town, that was agreed to be reconstructed as a part of our project. That will be constructed by Clay County with reimbursement from the Diversion Authority to Clay County. And so that's going to require the county to work with the city of Comstock as well. And then, of course, we have in Holy Cross Township, we have a cemetery, and members of the cemetery board are also members on other township boards and things. And so we've already started some of those communications with those different entities. And I'm really getting a lot of great feedback from those boards and those cities. They want to get these things done. I think everybody's ready to put grievances behind us and do the work necessary to get these things complete and move on.
All right, anything else before we go on? Okay, we'll go on to item 7, appreciation for outgoing committee members. I don't know if we have anybody in attendance that won't be a member of our committee.
He's not attending today, but Commissioner Pollock, I believe they switch over in December in Cass County, and Commissioner Pollock obviously had a break in his term here, but Commissioner Pollock, I think, was an original member of this committee, and he's been serving since he was reappointed. And so I know I just want to thank him for his service on flooding issues in general, but especially to this project and this committee. And so I'm sure others feel the same way, and just I'll have to give him a call and thank him myself, but wanted to make that note. And just out of reference, Grant Wayland's term is also up at the end of the year. So I believe there'll be one more meeting. Grant's been a good attendee of this committee. And so just wanted to make note of that, as so we don't forget about things as they turn over. So.
Okay, thanks, Rocky. We all feel the same appreciation for those members that are going on to, should I say, greener pastures, maybe? Anyway, let's go on to the executive director update. Joel?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple brief things to go over with the committee, just to build on some of the upcoming items that we have as far as public outreach is concerned. Katie Mastel is on the line. I understand we were fortunate enough to meet up last week, and we did a chamber podcast about the settlement agreement and kind of the status of where we're at. And Katie, I don't think I ever asked you when that might be published, so maybe you could let the committee know.
Yeah, we're hoping really soon. We'll look to get it back sometime this week and send it to your team for final approval. So probably late this week, early next, maybe.
Excellent. And I think that went really well. We were able to get some great content and information out about the settlement agreement. So it's going to be a great resource for folks to access and listen to our conversation that we had. Also want to just note, I continue to work with Rocky and his team on creating Diversion download podcasts. And we have an outline of specific topics that we've been talking about. We've now done 2 podcasts. We have another one coming up here for recording. And so I would suggest if folks could continue to share those, get the word out. I think it's a great format for people that want a more discussion-based content in order to access information about the project. And then also we have the North Dakota Water Users Joint North Dakota Water Convention and Irrigation Workshop coming up in December. where I'll be doing a presentation during that workshop about the diversion, focusing on the innovation of the project, much along the lines of what Mr. Gust and I were talking about earlier, as far as the P3 value it offers for our community and our project, and how that's being implemented, basically. And then I will be presenting the Diversion Board my 2021 Executive Director goals for next year tomorrow at the board meeting. But I just wanted to let the Public Outreach Committee know that one of those goals is communication. And bringing Jennifer on board, having Rocky and his team behind her, and having additional public staff such as myself and Mr. Chris Bachigard as the engineering director is going to really allow us to bring our communications program to a new level. So I'm really excited to see where we can go with that next year. I will share my draft goals with the board today, and obviously have some discussion about that tomorrow. But that communication goal really is going to be defined by a number of different actions that we're going to be taking in 2021. And so they're just goals. I'm really looking for feedback as well from the Public Outreach Committee on that particular goal. And I think that certainly could be something that we could put on the agenda for the next meeting as we kind of digest what I've put together there, and gather additional input from this committee on formulating our plan for 2021 and beyond. A lot of that discussion could hinge around the communications plan. And Rocky, I think, danced around it a little bit earlier in the meeting, but the reason we haven't adopted the communications plan is because I wanted to hold it back until we filled the communication director role. Now that Jennifer's here, she's going to be able to provide her input and really take some ownership in that plan. So I'm looking forward to the December committee meeting, because I think we're going to have a lot of great discussion, both surrounding the goals and the implementation of our communications plan. So with that, I'll take any questions, but that's all I have this month, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
Shelley Carlson has her hand up.
Yes, go ahead, Shelley.
Thank you, Chair. I just had one suggestion. I don't know if there was a press release done with the hiring of our, I'm forgetting his job title, the head of engineering.
Yeah, engineering director.
Engineering director. But perhaps we could do a press release for both his position and a communications director, and just to help the public have some insight into that the Diversion is actually a growing agency. We have 2 people that are in charge of different departments, even the hiring of your administrative assistant. I don't know that we have done that in the past. If so, I apologize that I missed it. But if we haven't, perhaps that could be done.
That's an excellent recommendation, Councilmember Carlson. I think we should be doing that. It's something I guess I didn't even think about, but it is something that I think is regularly done for key positions. So we will work to get something put together and get that press release out. Thanks for the idea.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. Anyone else?
This is Dwayne Breitling. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Are you here for the land management?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're just going to finish our outreach meeting. Just going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Councilmember Carlson.
Okay, and is there a second?
Jacob,
So
Okay, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.